You see, our forefathers, they first were living in caves. Then they realized you can put stone blocks before the opening of the caves so the animals could not come by to beat you at night. Then they learned that you need a stick to give the animals on distance. You have a spear. Then they invented the bow, file. Was ist Pfeil und Bogen? Arc. Bow and arrow. Bow and arrow. Anyhow, so they discovered slowly that they are hard stones, slow stones. You can cut stones, you transport stones. It's all an evolution of technology. This goes slowly. Now Cheops, the so-called builder, was the 4th dynasty. The evolution of technology was not there for all these things. In the meantime, we know that the Great Pyramids, all the 3 there, are laid in the same direction as the star of Orion up there. The oldest god in Egypt is Osiris, but Osiris is the same as Orion. Even in the writing, in hieroglyphics, you can mix it. Now you see, there are shafts inside the pyramid. You will just see them later. And the shafts point exactly on one side to the star of Orion, and on the other side to the star of Sirius. Sirius is the women. Isis. So, Osiris and Isis. In English, Isis. So, you see on our planet, we have, in our solar system, we have 3 so-called inner planets. Inner means from the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth. And then we have outer planets. In the Great Pyramid, inside, you have 3 rooms. You see the distance between one room and the other is not the same. And it's exactly the distance of the 3 inner planets of our solar system. But they could not know that, because at that time, the planet Mercury was not known. The Great Pyramid is not standing just on its places. The distance to the center of the Earth is exactly the same as the distance to the pole. So they knew a few things which they could not have known. Someone must have helped them. Someone must have told them. Who was this someone? And the technology of evolution, the evolution of technology, does not fit with the knowledge of Pharaoh Cheops. I guess you were all there. And you see there are halls. In 823 after Christ, so not long time ago, 1,200 years ago, the pyramid was not looking like this. The pyramid was completely covered with stones. Down there are still some of these stones. So it was all flat, not like stairways you see today. Then in 1823 AD, the Al-Mamun, he was the king at that time, the Caliph of Cairo, he wanted to go inside the pyramid. He was expecting to find gold and jewelry, etc. But it was all closed with these stone plates, so there was no entry. So he simply chiseled at some place, and he created this hole. This hole is still the 2 days entry for the tourists. The real entry would have been up there. He never found it. This is the real entry. Now as tourists, you climb in here. And then you have to go down on your knees. This is called the upgoing way. It's 23 meters high, but only about, 1 meter high. So 23 meters long, but only about 1 meter high. Now imagine you are there. So you go down on your knees, completely down, and you sweat. You climb up these 23 meters. I often, with tourists, stand at the end of these 23 meters, and you see tourists from some countries, you don't believe it. They come in there with their ties on and their jacket, completely wet. So whenever you have a chance to climb into the Great Pyramid, go like this. Don't take a shower in the morning. Take the shower later after this, because we are all stinking the same way up here. So after this 23 meters, you come in a place which is called the Great Gallery. Imagine, here you come out of this upgoing way, 23 meters. And now you open 47 meters. Before, we were only 1 meter high. Now we are 8.5 meters high. And here starts the great mystery. Starts the great mystery of the pyramid. Why did the constructors of the pyramid first made this narrow, upcoming way? They could not even transport a sarcophagi in there. It was too small. And then this gigantic great gallery here, 47 meters, 8 meters high. There is no explanation of it. We don't know it. So this was the upcoming way. Then, up there is the so-called King's Chamber. Down is the so-called Queen's Chamber. This is the so-called Great Gallery. I always say so-called. The word King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber are inventings of us. We don't know how the builders constructed. We just call it King's Chamber or Queen's Chamber or Great Gallery. We go now into this so-called Queen's Chamber, and on the south wall there is a hall. The same hall happened on the other side, on the north side. Now you see I'm standing here and pointing with my finger into the hole. And now what I say is very, very important, really, don't forget it in later discussion. These two holes, south and north, only exist since 110 years. Before 110 years, there was no holes in the wall. It was all closed. 110 years ago, a British man came with a small hammer. He was expecting to find other rooms with jewelry, gold, etc. And he was hammering on the walls. And on two places, it sounded hollow. And only now, he took chisel and hammer and opened here and on the other side. 110 years ago. Now, since this hole is known, archaeology and the whole literature say this was just a ventilation shaft. Then they found out there is no air, there is no ventilation. They said, well, it's a symbolic shaft. Simply symbolic, in the maximum 8 meters long, and then it has a dead end. It will not continue. Some 20 years ago, roughly, one of my friends, he's an engineer, Rudolf Gantenbrink, he is a rich man. He constructed a small robot on his own expenses. And he went to Cairo, and he said to this specialist there, with this robot, I can climb, I can go into this hole and this shaft. The Egyptologists there, Professor Dr. Sayhawa, were completely against it. They did not want that he goes in with the robot. But finally said, okay, let this stupid German go in with his robot, he will blame himself. So a new adventure started in the Great Pyramid. The robot was constructed, it was a steel construction. Then they put on cameras, halogen lights, movable in every direction. They made 4 wheels on it. There were 6 electro motors which moved everything. Then some sort of, Raupe? Caterpillar, some sort of caterpillar, like a little tank. And then the adventure started.